In the chaos of World War II, entire nations were starving. Bombs didn't just destroy cities, they destroyed the earth itself. Farms that once fed millions were turned into muddy wastelands, and the world faced a question no army could answer. How do you grow food when the soil is dead? In that desperate hour, salvation didn't come from machines or from laboratories. It came from the past, from ancient seeds, small, unassuming grains that humanity had almost forgotten. Millet, amaranth, sorghum, grains older than recorded history that quietly became weapons of survival. The Second World War was fought on every front: land, sea, air, and soil. Shipping routes collapsed, fertilizer factories were bombed, and millions of farmers were drafted into battle. Fields in Europe and Asia were cratered by shells, soaked in fuel, and left barren. In Britain, the Dig for Victory Victory campaign begged citizens to tear up lawns and plant food wherever possible, in parks, playgrounds, even between bomb shelters. In America, the War Garden movement swept through cities, encouraging families to grow their own food to free up supplies for troops overseas. But growing food was one thing. Growing it in ruined soil, that was another battle entirely. Governments needed crops that could survive drought, poor soil, and cold. Plants that could produce food where even weeds struggled to grow. Agricultural scientists started digging through old records, folklore, and seed archives. They searched ancient farming traditions for crops that had once thrived without modern help. That search led them to grains that had been feeding humanity since the dawn of agriculture. Millet, one of the oldest cultivated plants on Earth, grown in ancient China, Africa, and India for over 7,000 years. Amaranth, sacred to the Aztecs, once banned by the Spanish because of its ritual importance. Sorghum, the dryland grass of Africa that could survive where rain was a memory. These were not crops of abundance. They were crops of endurance, forgotten by industrial agriculture because they didn't fit into mass production systems. But war changed everything. The world didn't need luxury. It needed survival. What made these ancient grains so powerful wasn't just their toughness above ground. It was what they did below it. Millet sends out a dense network of hair-thin roots that dig through compacted earth like living drills. Every root opens tiny tunnels that allow air and water to flow again, loosening soil hardened by tanks and drought. Sorghum, meanwhile, drives deep vertical roots far below the reach of most crops. It mines nutrients from the subsoil, pulling minerals upward and recycling them into the surface layer. When its stalks die and decay, they turn into rich, carbon-heavy organic matter, nature's slow-release fertilizer. Amaranth adds another dimension. It thrives even in nutrient-poor soils, growing tall, shading the ground, and preventing erosion. Its leaves and stems add nitrogen when decomposed, acting like a living compost system. Together, they formed a natural alliance, a biological army working silently to heal the land itself. Across Europe, Asia, and North America, farmers began planting these ancient grains on bombed or overworked fields. In Eastern Europe, millet was sown to quickly cover bare ground and stop erosion before the rains could wash it away. In the American Dust Bowl states, where even grass refused to grow, sorghum became a miracle crop, holding the soil in place and restoring moisture. And though amaranth wasn't as common, it gained a reputation among wartime botanists as a wonder plant, one that could produce both food and fertilizer simultaneously. Within a single season, land that looked like lifeless gray clay began to darken again. Microbes returned. Earthworms reappeared. The fields began to breathe. What these crops achieved was nothing short of ecological engineering, long before anyone used that term. Their roots exuded natural sugars that fed soil bacteria and fungi. Those microbes, in turn, broke down minerals, unlocking nutrients trapped in the soil for centuries. Instead of stripping the land, the way chemical fertilizers often do, these grains built it up. They created humus, improved soil structure, and stored carbon underground, turning barren dirt into living earth again. The same principle that fed the world in wartime is still one of the most effective ways to rebuild soil today. Whether you're farming 100 acres or tending a backyard garden, the brilliance of these ancient grains wasn't just their ability to heal the land. They fed people too. Amaranth leaves can be eaten fresh, packed with protein and iron. Millet cooks quickly into warm porridges or bread, still a staple in many African and Indian households. Sorghum provides grain for food, stalks for syrup, and even seeds for brewing. During World War II, these grains met two needs at once. They restored damaged soil while putting food directly on the table. Every harvest improved the ground for the next. That kind of self-sustaining cycle is something modern agriculture has almost forgotten. Today, in an age of depleted farmlands, expensive fertilizers, and climate uncertainty, the lesson from WWII feels urgent again. If your garden soil is heavy and lifeless, plant millet. If it's dry and cracked, plant sorghum. If it's poor and tired, plant amaranth. These aren't just crops, they're tools of restoration. Living fertilizers that work with nature instead of against it. And just as they once fed soldiers and civilians under siege, they can now feed families striving for self-reliance and sustainability. The story of these grains isn't just a footnote in wartime history, it's a message that the answers to our hardest problems often lie buried in the past. When we plant these seeds, we're not just growing food. We're restoring the soil, honoring forgotten wisdom, and continuing a cycle that began thousands of years ago. So if you want to build true resilience in your land, your garden, or your life, start where wartime farmers once did. With the humble seeds that fed civilizations, rebuilt battlefields, and still hold the power to heal the earth today. If this story inspired you, share it, and subscribe for more forgotten survival lessons and powerful truths hidden in history.